There you go. All right, Gunnar, thank you so much for coming and DJing for the iWAIT event.
Thank you for having me.
Yep.
It was a bit of a shit post, but it is what it is.
Hey, shit posts are good posts. as long as you own it. So, normally I would be interviewing Clickshaw, but they're European, so they're hopefully in bed by now. If not, they're going to be suffering at work tomorrow.
Amen, hallelujah.
All right, so
Shout out to all the European DJs that stay up or wake up in time for sets like this.
exactly, oof. And then also for the
It's
New
a rough one.
Zealanders, also for the
No
New
pun
Zealand.
intended.
Nope, and also for the New Zealanders too. But then again, they're like what 4 hours behind us, or ahead of us. I can't remember. But
They're ahead by a decent margin.
yep. Though, back to the questions in hand. So, like, how long have you been DJing for?
7 or 8 months, if I remember correctly.
Oh, nice. Same with me. I've been DJing for about, let's see, June 19th was the first time I touched the DJ controller.
I think mine was in August.
So I got
it was.
so I got a little on
A
you.
little bit of leeway.
Yeah. But still, you do really good sets, really good music. It was fun to have the multiple genres. I don't think I could pull off a multi-genre set unless it's structured like, here's this genre, then we're going to build up to the next genre, then we're going to build up to the next genre, and then we're going to build to the next genre.
By the way, you have no clue what's going on next. Let's go!
Yeah. I want to play some, like, seriously, some of the tracks that you played, like, from Moni Moni from Tommy Lee and the Shondells. I remember listening to that with my dad in the 90s. And that was even an old track then.
It was. It's a pure 80s track, my bad.
Yeah.
I'm a late 90s baby, but my parents decided that 80s was going to be the genre I grew up with.
Nice.
So it's a lot of fun for me.
Like when I grew up with music, I was growing up to listen like Rolling Stones, Tommy Lee Jones and the Shondells, little bit of Beatles, just of that 70s, 80s era, late 70s, early 80s era music, because that's what my parents listened to.
Yeah, I completely understand that.
So what got you into DJing?
Really, it's simplistic. It was, I like making cues and shit on Spotify, the SoundCloud, all that other stuff. And, you start making connections of what would follow well with the next song, or with throw a curveball, which is, I did a couple of those.
You are definitely just the curveball king.
Ayo! What's a curveball, but still kind of fits? And you're like, that's really different, but I like it. And if and when you can pull that off, it's a lot of fun. Especially when people are like, "Oh my god, I remember this song!" Some of my sets rely on the nostalgia. Some of it's new stuff that you haven't heard of, and it's a lot of fun mixing it all into one performance, if you will.
Yeah, and it's like trying to manage the vibe, the energy, and knowing when to build up the energy or know when to just kill the energy.
Yeah. And it's helpful having a crowd in front of you and whatnot. So with having a good crowd, you'll have positive, negative feedback, and all of that's very helpful, because what you want to do next kind of plays off, or what I want to do next plays off what the crowd is reacting to, what they're having fun with. And if they're having fun with more of the oldies, it's like, you know what, let's start all the way back. Which I know 70s isn't all the way, but typically within the viewership of a VR chat, or even
exactly
the college I go to, that's going to be about the older stuff that most anyone would actually relate to or understand. So when you start throwing those curveballs in and you know how to get to it, people are like, oh my god, this is great. I love it. And it's a lot of fun.
That is definitely fun. So, uh, what type of DJ equipment do you use?
Currently, I use a Newmark Mixtrack Platinum FX controller with a Serato Pro
Nice.
and one computer, which caused a little bit of issues earlier. We're not going to talk about that,
Yeah,
except for right now.
yeah. Fuck Serato.
um,
Or at least fuck Serato
I
crashes.
love Serato, but it is difficult to run with everything else I run off of one rig, and unfortunately, I don't have enough desk space to run other computers,
Yeah, yep. That's
which I do have.
yeah. That's what I end up doing with me is I will VR and DJ on my main PC, and then I actually
hmm
will use OBS to manage how the stream looks, and then there's an
Yeah.
add-on you can download for OBS Studio called NDI output. What that does is
hmm
actually tells your you can tell your OBS Studio, so hey, with this all this audio, all this video is currently showing on the main screen, stream it over the network, and then you tell a secondary PC to tag into that feed, and then set that as a source. So that's how
Yeah.
I'm able to stream to Twitch in 1080p, and then stream to these VR chat worlds through VRCDN in 720p.
What was it last Tuesday I hosted for you?
Yep.
Um, when you were explaining that to me the first time I heard it, I was amazed, and I was explaining it to another listener
Yep.
in the world, and actually the CZ.
Yep.
CZ84, if you haven't
Yep.
run into him,
Yep.
he's
I
an
run him.
amazing DJ. I highly recommend his music.
He was
His mixes
thing.
are incredible.
I think he was my. Let's
He was
see.
before you.
Yeah.
I think two
He
sets or one set.
he. I actually had him on this event on January 27th.
There you go.
He was actually my third group of DJs running through this iWAIT event. So yeah, I definitely know
There
him
you
pretty
go.
well. Um,
But I was explaining what you had told me, which is basically what you just said to the crowd here,
yep.
and he was absolutely amazed, which is pretty much what my reaction was too. And I mean, that's awesome that you're able to run shit like that.
Yep.
Oh no, I said a curse word.
Don't worry,
It is what it is.
my Twitch profile is flagged for mature audiences. So go right ahead.
But yeah, the way you run things is really cool, and it's also really neat seeing how multiple DJs and different people within technical skills, like DJing,
Yep.
have different approaches to the very same objective, which is at the end of the day making sure the most people can enjoy what's going on.
Yeah, it's like as long as the people are jiving and dancing and enjoying themselves, it is definitely a good thing. One thing I love about DJing is you watch the crowd and you can pick out like the people that are really vibing the set. Like they may not be actively looking at you, but they're kind of wiggling their hips. They're
Definitely.
kind of doing like the little hand bops. Or they're just talking with their
hmm
friends, but you can see that minute, if they're in full body, that little bit of minute swaying that they're kind of doing in rhythm of the tracks. Like that's kind of what we
hmm
live for as DJs is to get them to like this. Eventually, sometimes we'll get a banger, and then you just hear everybody start belting out the lyrics to the song. But of course, they're out of sync with
Yes.
everybody else. But yeah,
Yeah, if it was a normal IRL event, it might be because of the audio equipment or whatnot, because what goes through might not necessarily be what you're hearing at the same time, but unfortunately VR chat's a bit more latency because you're relying on internet and all the other stuff.
yeah, that's one thing I like.
But it is still a lot of fun.
Yeah, it definitely is a lot of fun, and it's like that's why I used to do Twitch, and like Twitch will have anywhere from a 5 second delay to a 40 second delay. I'm like, how?
Yeah.
But So that's why I kind of decided to pay a little extra money a month to do the VR CDN. That way, at least the world syncs. Like I hit something, boom, it comes to the world like 2 seconds later, or less than that, depending on which world I am in.
Yeah.
So, as far as like a DJ yourself, what advice
hmm
would you give to a new DJ starting out?
Find music that you truly love and that you know, and start with that. I highly recommend buying all this stuff. Make sure you do it legitimately. Spend your time to do everything right from the start. And then when you have music that you know and you love, it becomes natural on how to throw in what the next track is because you've listened to it enough. You really understand it. It's almost a soul, or it ties into your soul, if you will. And you're like, this song really fits here. And you can't rely on that all the time, but it is a really big part of becoming a DJ and knowing how to push forward what you want to do. Um, Listening to my set, there were a couple of rough parts. I won't deny that, but on the parts that I really understood and I really know, it just ties together.
Yeah, because like almost every DJ that I interview and such, they say the number one thing that you should do as a DJ is learn your songs in and out. Know exactly where the drops are, know exactly where the breaks are, how long are the
hmm
phrases, when you should mix in, when you should mix out, and all that. Very, very wonderful things, and like which, I admit sometimes I mess up, and I'm like, oh, oof, that was a real bad transition, at least in your opinion. And you're kind of like watching out the audience, like, did anybody notice that?
Mm. Did you see it? Did anyone notice?
But yeah,
Another tip I would throw forward is get people that are really good at being hypercritical. And this is personal preference, but I like to push myself to the next level. So I like to get people who are well beyond my level, people who know what to listen for and whatnot, and give recommendations. Because if you can't get the next level, you're not really going to be able to push past the level you're in my opinion. Um, and that is a bit hard headed and difficult, but if you can get it down correctly, it makes for an amazing time for everyone else.
no, yeah, I totally, totally agree. Like, when you're playing a track for yourself, uh, you may not notice the minutia. Like, you may not.
hmm
It may sound good to you, but to somebody else who knows what to listen for, like, oh yeah, this was kind of it. And then if you're looking for people with advice, I would suggest making sure people that know what they're saying, know what they're doing, but have the tact and the ability to position it as an opportunity to improve, not just setting you down like saying you did this bad, you did this bad, you did this bad.
Absolutely.
They need to come back and say, hey, you did this wrong. Here is how you can fix it.
hmm
Like, and that's it's in general in life. Like, if you ever run into a person who's just consistently nagging at you, saying you're doing this wrong, doing this wrong, doing this wrong, and not giving you any information on how to fix it,
How to fix it.
get rid of them. They don't deserve to
Or
be.
ignore their advice if you can afford to get rid of them.
Yeah, true. Yeah, just ignore their
Such
advice.
as potentially your boss.
Just smile and nod, and then just have the biggest middle finger in your mind, just sticking the way up.
Not the biggest, but a larger one.
This is one
You don't want
finger.
to get
So,
fired.
well, until they invent mind reading technology, I think you're fine with just imagining it.
Imagine what's in front of you, and it will be there.
Yeah, like what's this? So what is your like your?
Also,
Oh, good.
well, Also, one of your biggest critics is going to be yourself. Don't
Exactly.
push yourself too hard. Be willing to accept that, hey, I'm not the best, and I've got stuff to work on, and that is a-okay. Because at the end of the day, if you're not trying to prove yourself, you've gotten comfortable, and you probably have somewhere that you can improve,
Yeah, like always.
which ties into being hypercritical.
Yeah, like also, but know that you have to always have to improve, but also don't beat yourself up over things. Like, yes, you made a few
Oh
mistakes
yeah,
in a set. Like, you can't be like some people. Like, I made a mistake. Flip the freaking table up. I'm done.
that's the end of it. That's over. I'm done. No, don't do that.
Uh,
What's the old Showtime saying? The show must go on.
yes, which is a very good song, actually.
Yes.
But yeah, it's like,
Fuck, no, I need more to my.
yes. But yeah, it's just like, realize that you're never going to have the best perfect show or the best perfect set, but just acknowledge that things happen. You may miss a cue, and
The
uh,
phrasing may be off by a bit.
yeah,
It is
or
what it is.
yep, or one thing we probably would, at least I would suggest to new DJs, is purposely set up a bad scenario where you're purposely not beat matching and force yourself to fix it.
Yes.
Or if you're out of phrase, what do? Do you abandon the new track first, hit pause, let the new track play out, and then bring it back in when you can do it? Do you loop out the old track so you can kind of clean up and go? Like, yeah, like
Hmm.
put yourself in those situations. Like, run those DJ emergency drills. That way, if it happens in a real event, you're like, oh yeah, I know how to handle this. Like if your Serrata crashes, you're like, oh,
Uh, Another
one
really
moment.
good idea on top of that is take yourself a bunch of tracks that really don't match together, which would be setting yourself up for the worst scenario, and find a way that will make it work. One of the first commissions I had to do was a bunch of not Katy Perry,
Oh
Taylor
no.
Swift songs
Oh
for
no.
a cheerleader squad.
Oh god.
It was rough. No pun intended. But I, when you throw yourself into less than ideal situations, there's no beat matching. You got to find where the phrasing kind of is close to what the person is asking for, and then uh, spin it out or filter it out or crossfade it out, whatever.
Yep.
Um, find a way that works for you, and then the other skills that I mentioned, if they don't sound familiar, research them. Try to figure out how to do it. That's going to push you to another level. Because at the end of the day, if you can get through one thing and go to another thing that doesn't necessarily make sense, but it will if you
All
do it
right. Thank you so
correctly,
much. Click in. Whoop, sorry.
that can make for a really good set or a really memorable set.
Yeah. On top of that, off too. Like, don't be like other DJs and get stuck in a rut, only playing house music and never go anything else. Like, uh, I guess you can. It's a double edged sword. Like, you could either be a multi-genre DJ like Low Prov and a few other DJs that are like, even yourself, you're a
Mm-hmm.
multi-genre DJ, or you can get stuck to always playing house, always playing funk, always playing electro swing. And like, yes, you're really good at your practice, but you may not find another love, another genre that you mesh
Mm-hmm.
well with. And honestly, once you have established, the ability to read a track, to know where the drop is, where the break is, and all that other stuff, that you can apply it to other genres. Like the set that I did today, I admit I
One other,
oh good.
one very helpful tool is mixed in key.
Yes, I've heard wonders of mixing key,
Mixing key is wonderful.
and I
It
heard it.
it is worth the amount of money. Isn't that much compared to pretty much anything else DJ related. I think it's 40 or $80 depending on when you buy it,
Now,
USD.
yep,
But it's super helpful.
yep, and
It'll
for
set up
the
cue points. It'll give you your key. It'll give you BPM, all of that stuff. And you can throw it into pretty much any DJ software, and it will read it as mixing key read it instead of how the software wants to.
yeah, because I've heard that like they ran what's the word I'm looking for? Like they did tests on DJ software, like for like mixing and key or seeing identifying key. Virtual DJ, which I use, was like wrong 75% of the
Mm-hmm.
time. But like mixing key was like accurate like to like 90% of the time. So yeah, though when you're just starting off, you really don't necessarily need to worry as much about keys. Like sure, it's nice to if you're looking at the camera,
Absolutely.
let's go like one letter up, one letter down, or change the same number, change the letter. That's if you're using the numeric scale. I tried looking at the Camelot scale with the letters. And I'm like, the fuck? Nope.
The, the letter scale is easy if you know music theory, but there's very few people that know it completely entrenched. You boys that went to Allstate for band for trumpet, saxophone, trombone, or percussion. They would know that better, but the numeric scale is a bit easier to read. And if you're going through tracks that are similar BPM, plus or minus 8 was the recommendation I was given when I started out.
For BPM.
It's for BPM, or beats per minute.
Mhm.
Is it's easy to follow. If you were listening to my set earlier, I was staying within a similar BPM for the first part of it, but I was still jumping through multiple genres from trance to EDM to electro house to even hardcore.
Huh.
Uh,
Yeah. Like for me, I never thought to jump between BPMs like during the transitions. Like for me, when I usually would jump from BPM, I either find a lazy way of having a track that starts off in the BPM that I want. It's like oh
where it fades out.
yeah, or this track or fades out, and or you have a track that fades in without any beats at all. So it's like you could easily hide
Mm-hmm.
it. Or like I have a few tracks that go from like 128, electro house, big room, but then they end in like hard style.
I love you guys in big room.
Yeah, like 150, so from 128 to 150, and they have the hard style beats start happening. Or I have one that goes from 128 to 150, and it's a dubstep at the end. Like, the fuck? How do we get here? But
Mm-hmm.
I use them. But yeah, I never thought of like within 8 beats, because you could probably start off like 128, then go up to 130, then 140, then up to 150, then hardcore, which is like 175. Well,
The
what?
reason that 8 beats was recommended to me in particular was you can slowly increase or decrease the BPM of a certain song, and it's not too disruptive.
Ah,
8 beats is about the maximum of what you can do that's disruptive.
and like,
Um,
and how
and you
far?
can use that to go into another song.
Nice.
So if you've got a bass out where it's just boom, 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 you can slow it down or speed it up to match what you're trying to go into or come out of.
Oh, that is definitely a good.
Cool.
Hello, we're doing the interview, cutie.
Bah.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. That's all right.
Cut that part. Just cut it. Cut
Nope,
it. I
nope,
didn't
nope.
notice.
That is staying in. That is
No,
staying
it's staying
in.
in.
Yep.
It is what it is.
No.
And it's being broadcast to the World Wide Web.
Oh,
All
no.
3 views
Yeah, all 3 views.
for now.
Let's see. Yep, they're about 3 views. Well, 3 counting yourself. So 2.
All 2 other views.
And then one of them is myself. So that's
Oh,
we have
what
a-
are you?
That's awesome. All right. So, if you were to go, send a message back in time when you're first starting off DJing, what would you send back to yourself? Like about, DJing, like what advice would you give?
Honestly, what I said earlier, which is mixed and key. It has been such a helpful tool for making more coherent sets and pulling music together that I really wouldn't have initially thought would work, or music that I wouldn't have analyzed myself, to work through setting up cue points, having the BPM laid out for me, knowing what the energy of each cue point could potentially be, and pulling it all together. Which pulling it all together is some experience, but a mixing key helps a lot, and I love the software
Nice. I think I may
more than my ex. Hey.
emotional damage. All right. Any last words?
I
Any
can make
last
that
things?
happen over the string.
Yeah. Yeah. Any last things you want to add before we close up?
Keep your sets as fun or as serious as you want them to be. It's up to you. If you're the DJ, and if you're having fun, you're enjoying the music. If you notice that a song doesn't quite mesh or whatnot, go to the DJ and be like, "Hey, I think that's not quite what I wanted to hear there," or you could have done this well, but if you were to waited 30 seconds or so when there's less vocals or less BPM or bass,
Mhm.
yeah, do it. Because at the end of the day, if you're helping someone else get better at their skill, that is very appreciated.
Yeah.
Now, just don't be like we were saying earlier, where you're just hypercritical, absolutely no options on how to fix it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah, because there's a saying, those who can't do teach. But there's a better saying that I enjoy is you never know how much you actually know something until you have to teach it to somebody else.
that is very true. Are we getting me? Oh, we.
Yeah, we got.
There's two of them.
Yes. Yep. This is Decorian. There are my very amazing, dancers. They come to every one of my events, and I'm very, very grateful and thankful that they decide to more give me the time and energy to do so. uh, so as far as the next week, for the next iWAIT, I am taking a step back and just being the host. However, it is going to be an all metal night. I am bringing to the stage Wolfie, Bad Wolfie,
Bad Wolfie,
and Serious Wiz. Serious Love, rather.
Okay.
So these are going to be some very, very amazing hard metal music. It's going to be fun to interview them too, because I know nothing about how to DJ metal.
I wouldn't be terribly surprised if at least Wolfie went into emo instead of heavy metal.
Hey,
which is why I love Wolfie.
Yeah, it's
part of the reason.
It's their set, so they can do whatever they damn well please. They got their hour.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, thank you again so much. You have yourself a wonderful night. For the rest of you, I'm going to start up the interview that I recorded yesterday with Clicksaw. So we'll do transition. Actually, stop recording.